For decades, many Southeast Asian countries relied heavily on Russian weapons. Vietnam was one of the biggest examples. Russian fighter jets, submarines, air defense systems, and military equipment became a major part of Vietnam's armed forces. But today, something is changing. Across Southeast Asia, countries are increasingly looking toward France and other European defense suppliers. And Vietnam's presence at the Eurosatory Defense Exhibition in Paris offers a glimpse into why this shift is happening. This is not just a story about buying weapons. It is a story about diversification, strategic autonomy, and a growing ambition among ASEAN countries to build their own defense industries. For years, Russia was one of Southeast Asia's most important defense suppliers. The weapons were relatively affordable. The systems were familiar, and long-term military relationships had already been established. But several factors have changed the equation. The war in Ukraine has raised concerns about supply chains, spare parts, maintenance, and future deliveries. Sanctions have also complicated defense transactions with Moscow. As a result, many ASEAN countries have started looking for alternative suppliers, and Europe is increasingly filling that gap. France has emerged as one of the biggest beneficiaries of this shift. French defense companies offer fighter aircraft, naval systems, radars, missiles, satellites, and advanced military technologies. Unlike some suppliers, France is also viewed by many countries as a relatively flexible partner. For Southeast Asian governments, French equipment offers a way to modernize their militaries while avoiding overdependence on any single major power. That makes France an attractive option in a region that values strategic balance. Vietnam's participation at Eurosatory carried an important message. Hanoi was not present simply as a customer. It was also present as a potential contributor. One notable example was Vietnamese technology company Gremzy, which exhibited alongside major international firms, including Airbus. That may seem like a small detail, but strategically, it signals something much bigger. Vietnam wants to move beyond being a buyer of defense equipment. It wants to become part of the defense manufacturing ecosystem. Vietnam is already preparing for its own Defense Expo later this year. The goal is clear. Hanoi wants international defense companies to come to Vietnam, build partnerships, transfer technology, and invest in local capabilities. This approach mirrors trends across Southeast Asia. Indonesia has similar ambitions. Malaysia is pursuing many of the same goals. The region increasingly wants to manufacture, assemble, maintain, and develop defense technologies at home rather than simply import them. This is why the story goes far beyond France. The real trend is strategic diversification. ASEAN countries do not want to depend entirely on Russia. They do not want to depend entirely on China. And many do not want to depend entirely on the United States either. Instead, they are building relationships with multiple partners while strengthening their own industrial capabilities. This approach gives governments more flexibility and more room to protect their national interests. Vietnam's appearance at Eurosatory highlights a larger transformation taking place across Southeast Asia. Countries that were once primarily arms buyers are now trying to become defense industrial players. France and Europe are benefiting from this shift. But the bigger story is ASEAN's growing desire for strategic autonomy. The region is no longer thinking only about where to buy weapons. It is increasingly thinking about how to build them. And that could reshape Southeast Asia's defense landscape for years to come.